I'm here to teach you guys how to divide polynomials by binomials. So I'm going to teach you guys two different methods on how to do it. One way is by the box method, which is the one that we used in class to do our assignments. The other way is going to be the long division way. We're going to get more into it when we get this video started. This is just a preview of what you need to do. This is an easier example than the one we're actually going to do. Okay? So let's first start with the box method. The box method is trying to find out if this is what's inside these boxes here. One needs to be at the top, so when you multiply the left by the top, it gives you 6x squared plus x minus 2. Alright? So if you didn't quite understand that, let me show you what I mean. So inside these boxes, you're gonna have to get 6x squared. X squared. And when you combine these two boxes, you're going to have to get back that positive x in the middle. And when you combine these two boxes, you're going to have to get negative 2. So I'm getting those from right here. The 6x squared goes in that first box. That positive x is going to be when you combine these two boxes right here. You're going to get positive x. And when you combine these two boxes here, you're going to get negative 2. Alright? So let's start with the first one. So if inside the box I have 6x squared, and on the left side I have 3x to the first power, right? If I don't see a number there, I assume it has a 1. If I have 3x to the first power, and inside I have 6x squared, 1 needs to go on the top for me to get 6. So if I'm trying, this is dividing polynomials. So if I divide, how many times does 3 go into 6? 2 times. If I have 1x on the outside and I need to have 2 x's, how many x's do I need to put on the top? I'm missing 1, so this would be x to the 1. Alright, so at the top I have 2x to the first power. And you can double check your math to make sure that this actually gives you 6x squared. So when I multiply the top on this box, when I multiply the top by the left, 2x to the first power times 3x to the first power, I get 6x squared, which is what we wanted to get. Alright, what about the bottom box? At the top, I have 2x to the first power. On the left side, I have positive 2. So what is 2 times 2 here? 4, and it's a positive 4. And x to the first power times no x's, it's going to give you at least 1x to the first power. All right, like I said at the very beginning, the goal is for me to combine these two boxes to get a positive 1x to the first power here. Right? If I don't have an exponent, I assume it has a 1. If I don't have a number in the front, I assume it starts with a 1. So if I need to have a positive 1x to the first power between these two boxes, do I need to add to the 4 or do I need to subtract to the 4 to get 1? I need to subtract. And how many do I need to subtract from 4 to get to a positive 1? Only 3. And an x to the first power. They both need to have the x to the first power for me to be able to put them together. Alright, so together they make that 1x to the first power, which is great, which is what we wanted. Alright, so now we got to figure out what goes on the top. So again, we are trying to divide here. So how many times does 3x to the first power go into negative 3x to the first power? Do the big numbers first. How many times does 3 go into negative 3? Negative 1. And if I have 1x already on the outside and I need to have 1x, does this top one need to have any x's? No. Because if I put another x, it's going to add them together and you're going to get x to the second power. So this is as far as you need to take it. You just need to go to negative 1. Alright. So double check your math. Make sure that everything is right. If at the top I have negative 1 and on the left I have 3x to the first power, what happens when I multiply them? Negative 1 times positive 3 gives me negative 3. Negative 1 times x to the first power gives me x to the first power. So I'm good. I am done with that part. All right, so now let's check that bottom box. If at the top I have -1 and on the left side I have +2, what is -1 times +2? -2. All right, and we're almost done. We just need to make sure that there's no remainders. Because on question number 8, there will be a remainder, so make sure you check that out. So if I need to have, I said at the very beginning that in my polynomial, I needed to have a -2 at the end. What would I have to put in this box? Do I need to add or subtract to -2 to get -2? I need to do nothing, right? It's already -2. So that means that I don't have a remainder here. My remainder is of 0. There is nothing there that I can add or subtract to get to -2. So that means that my final answer is 2x to the first power minus 1. It's this thing at the very top. All right? And there's no remainder, so you don't have to put that in there. So if you want to write it looking nicely, you can just put 2x minus 1. You don't have to put the 1, the exponent of 1. It is assumed that's already there. All right, let's say you didn't get that because it got complicated. Let's do the long division method. So let's refresh your mind and remind you of how you do long division. So let's first do this example here. Let's divide 297 by 11. So what would you do first? 11 doesn't go into 2, right? But 11 does go into 29. So how many times does 11 go into 29? Twice, right? Because 2 times 11 is going to give me what? 2 times 1 gives me 2, and 2 times 1 gives me 2. So this would be 22. All right, and what is the next step? For me to be able to do this problem, we need to subtract 29 minus 22. You take away what we multiplied 2 by. All right, so 29 times 22, or 29 minus 22 is 7. All right, and what comes down? You're going to bring that 7 down. And you're going to ask yourself, how many times does 11 go into 77? 11 goes into 77 7 times. So because 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 1 is 7. So this would be 77. All right, and what do I need to do for me to get my final answer? And make sure that there's no remainder, I need to subtract them. I need to take away 77 minus 77. So what will I get when I do that? 0. So that means that there's no remainder, and I'm done with this problem. So the same way that we did this problem, we're going to do the one with a polynomial. So let me move this over down. All right, we're just going to put this to the side, and then we'll come back to it in a little bit. All right, so now let's do the problem that we were given. The one with the 3x plus 2 and the 6x squared. All right, so this is the problem that we were actually given. And we're going to use the same exact steps that we did with the 11 and the 297. So the first step is to figure out how many times does 3x go into 6x squared. Three goes into 6 twice. And I have 1x on the outside. I need to have 2 of them. So how many x's does this one need to have on the top? It needs to be 3x times 2x for me to get 6x squared. All right, so once I did that, what is the next thing that I did? I multiplied on the bottom one. I did 2 times 11 to figure out what was left over, right? The same thing here. you're going to multiply 2x times everything on the outside. 2x times 3x and 2x times 2. So 2x times 3 gives me 6x squared, which is what we wanted. 2x times 2 gives me a positive 4x. All right, and what was the next step? Once I did 2 times 11, I had to subtract what I got. So here, instead of being a positive 6, I have to do the opposite. I have to subtract 6x squared. Same with the 4. Instead of being a positive 4x, I have to subtract it away. So I'm going to make it a negative 4x. I'm going to leave that positive in there just to remind you that we had to eventually do the opposite. So here, when I do this, what is 6x squared minus 6x squared? 0. You're going to have nothing left over. What is 1x minus 4? Or plus negative 4? 1 minus 4 is negative 3x. All right? So once we did that, we have to bring down the next number. So I'm just going to bring down that negative 2. And I'm going to figure out how many times does 3x go into negative 3x. So 3 goes into negative 3 one time, but it would be a negative 1 because negative 1 times a positive 3 gives me negative 3. All right, so let's multiply the top number here by everything on the outside. You're going to multiply negative 1 times positive 3 to get negative 3x. Negative 1 times positive 2 gives me negative 2. So notice that the top one is exactly the same as the bottom one. So that means that when we take them away or we do the opposite, they're going to cancel each other out and there's not going to be a remainder. So, but remember that you have to do the opposite. You have to do the opposite of this 3x, make it a positive, and you have to do the opposite of this negative 2 and make it a positive 2 for you to be able to take them away. All right, so negative 3 plus 3 gives me 0, which is what we wanted. And negative 2 plus 2 also gives me 0. So that means that there are no remainders at all. And this is our final answer, which is what we wanted to get, which is the exact same thing that we got earlier. All right. If you didn't quite get that, I'm going to link some videos into the description to give you some more videos that you can watch to get the long division method. If you liked it more than the box method. So I prefer the box method just because I'm more of a visual person and I can double check my work this way. But if you like the long division method, I'm going to link some videos in there. I'm going to link some pictures in there that you can look at to be able to get some more help. Okay, thank you and you have a wonderful